everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast, the show where we review oddball movies, have oddball discussions, and occasionally take questions from you, the oddball fans.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Albert Berg, and, well, we are definitely in the oddball movie country tonight, Tony. This is Lindsay's doing. We're in the final week of Viewers' Choice Month with the movies that our viewers forced us to watch. And we're talking about a little movie that's on Netflix currently, if you want to check it out. It's called Wetlands.
Yeah, it is a German movie, so be prepared for subtitles. And along with being a German movie, it is an intensely gross movie. So if you have a really weak gag reflex, if you can't take gross things, you might want to skip this one.
Yeah, the gross part was like maybe the best part to me. Not like I enjoyed it necessarily, but I felt like it definitely got where it was going. Like it was very, very effective with the gross out stuff.
Definitely.
It did not pull a single punch. I was talking with Lindsay about this a little bit on Twitter, and I kind of felt like that the gross out stuff didn't contribute much to what the movie was saying or the plot of it in any way. Maybe I'm missing something, but it felt like it was in your face, kind of just to be in your face.
I actually had a hard time figuring out what this movie was trying to say overall. Like, I kept thinking, like, I know she's trying to get her parents back together. I know there's a lot going on with all this, but I didn't feel like it was that cohesive of a plot.
Well, this is an idea that I stole from another review. Okay, so take that into consideration. However, if you strip out all of the grossness, right? Like you take out that she's got hemorrhoids and the weird butt bleeding and all of the disgusting stuff that she does. This is just like every single other Fox Searchlight indie movie ever. She's going around, she's got her friends, like they have quirky adventures with their quirky adventure drug dealer guy. Her parents are messed up. Like she's trying to get them back together. She's trying to get the guy. She steals the guy away from the other girl. They go off and they be happily ever after the end. It might as well just be, Juno, but without the pregnancy.
Although, there was a pregnancy, it just wasn't her.
Yeah.
You didn't have Michael Sayer, who the hell is that?
I thought you were going to say Michael Cera, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he wasn't in this movie, but...
I was going to say it's like Michael Cena laying the pipe in Juno. J.K. Simmons didn't think he'd have it in him.
So, within, if you strip out, again, all of the gross stuff, you have this very... I don't want to say completely conventional, but it's just sort of exploring, the life of the modern, teenager. I almost said American teenager. Obviously, she's not American, but, the modern young person dealing with their parents being split apart, dealing with the sort of evolving idea of sexuality in the world and trying to figure out where they're going. And she has more sex than normal, I would say. But I don't know if the movie's saying something about that either, or if it's just a thing that happens in the movie.
Yeah, it's not like a Nymphomaniac where her actually being a nympho is the main point of it all.
Right, but it does feel a little bit judgmental. It almost seems like they're really trying to get you to think there's something wrong with this girl. The sex isn't enough, so they have to throw in all the other weird stuff. Hey, there's something wrong with this girl. But when you mix in all that other stuff, then it are they saying the sex is bad? What is the movie condemning her for, if anything?
And that's another thing that I was just kind of confused about. I was like, what are they trying to say about sex in this?
It's so close. It's irritating probably isn't the right word, but I guess frustrating because I know we just saw Swiss Army Man. And there's a context in which this could come across as a sexist thing because obviously Swiss Army Man stars two dudes, but if you boil it down to gross out stuff, right? Swiss Army Man is about a farting corpse. And if that was all that it was about, it wouldn't be a good movie. It's because that farting corpse stuff is thematically important to what they're saying. And maybe I'm just not bright enough to get what the movie is saying here.
Yeah, it kind of felt No Country to me. Especially because there was sort of an ending to it, but it wasn't really a satisfying ending.
Yeah, well, it felt like that sort of sappy not rom-com, your indie type romance ending. She goes off with the guy, she gets the normal guy. She gets her parents back together, maybe sort of ostensibly, possibly. It doesn't feel like the right ending for that movie. You're thinking we went through all of this weird grossness to get an ending that could be in literally any other movie. You could play the end of that and never in a million years think, man, I bet the previous hour and a half of this movie has been super gross to lead up to this. It just sort of puts her back into the most boring, normal world you could imagine.
Pretty much. But it definitely had like some visceral moments in this movie that really stood out to me.
How could they not?
The worst use of a hemorrhoid donut, all sorts of things.
The pizza scene was pretty good. I felt like that would make you a little bit uncomfortable.
That was gross out. We've all seen enough porn to kind of not
the slow motion flying through the air, colliding with each other sperm battle was pretty I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I'm just imagining what they had to get some guy with a Phantom Flex camera to do the slow motion. And I'm sure it's not real, but still.
It does look like the viscosity looks
real
pretty
enough.
on point.
Yeah. Oh, pizza. A friend of mine actually said that German pizza is awesome. He lived out there for a while he was stationed there. It's something you wouldn't expect.
I mean, the pizza didn't look bad. I like my favorite part about that scene too was that there wasn't anything wrong with that pizza. She was just getting inside of his head. Nothing had happened to that particular pizza. She's just saying, I'm rude to the delivery guy because I heard the story this one time, and tells it in the really graphic detail of what these guys did to this pizza. And I love that moment where she's just getting inside of his head and he's really enjoying the spinach pizza, and then he looks at it and he just can't, even though nothing has happened to it, he just cannot think about it the same way anymore.
He still troopers through, but I think that's partially because he also has beer. It'd be nice if the delivery drivers were allowed to bring beer out here. That'd be nice. But no, we can't have our 18... Is that not allowed? No, not in this state anyway. You might be able to... You can always buy beer at actual pizza joints, not a Domino's or something. But none of the delivery places are bringing you out a 6-pack with your pizza.
I know that it doesn't happen, but I'm saying is it... I guess it has to be legal, right? It can't be... It can't just because nobody thought wait a minute, we could take people beer to their house? Are you saying we can take people beer to their house? That can't have been a revelation. So there must be something stopping them.
That or it's most of our delivery drivers are under 21 and we can't just send them in their car if they get pulled over.
I feel if I was a business owner, I would find a way to get around that. Hiring delivery drivers that were over 21. If I was the only pizza place in town that was delivering beer, I bet you I could afford to hire some 22-year-olds.
Especially if you were in a state that was one of those blue states from before where you couldn't buy beer on Sunday. I wonder if you'd be able to sell it then if it's being delivered with a pizza or something. Because you could go to a restaurant and get beer from a restaurant, but you can't go to a liquor store.
Oh. Morality, Tony. You just outlawed entirely. Make an amendment to the Constitution. That'll do it.
It always works so well to create those fun black markets.
We'll talk about blacks and markets when we get to the debate portion of the podcast, Tony.
We both watched the presidential debate.
Oh boy, that
things are going to get a little crazy later. So
that was entertaining. I don't really have. By the way, I guess I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, but generally I don't have any big political thoughts. I'm not a big Hillary supporter, so if anybody's worried that we're going to get all... I'm sure we'll step on somebody's toes, but...
Yeah, you always do anytime you talk about politics. If you have a reasoned discussion, somebody's going to be offended by it.
I was super entertained, though. I will just say that.
That was why I watched. I was like, this is going to be one of the bigger shit shows we've ever seen in a live debate.
Okay. We should finish up talking about Wetlands, Tony. I know we've said a lot of what I have to say, but I've said already, but... We should spend another 5 minutes and we'll get to... I know you want to get there. I want to get there.
Do we want to field the questions that were asked about this movie?
Sure. Go ahead.
These are all from Lindsay at Geek Girl Co. on Twitter. She basically is the one who forced us to watch this. like the corruption that's happening in government, she decided she was going to have everyone in her office vote for the polls, and that is completely okay because we're trying to get other people to see our website. We endorse corruption here. But anyway, her questions are, is this just a disgusting, gross-out film, or is there a deeper commentary about women taking charge of their own sexuality?
It maybe there's. I want to believe when I watch a movie, I'm looking for a deeper commentary, right? Even if there's not one there, I'm trying to construct one in my head because I generally believe that people who tell stories are trying to say something. However, it doesn't. It's not clear enough for me. We kind of already discussed this a little bit, but it's not clear enough for me to be able to say definitively, yes, she's definitely, saying something about how women need to be, because it's so gross. It makes it feel like a bad thing. Eventually you're like that something is wrong with this girl. And you don't, I don't think that's the picture you want to paint. If you're trying to say it's cool for women to take it, charge of their sexuality. I mean, me and my wife, it's mostly my wife, but I've been watching with her. She's picked up on this show, Jane the Virgin, which is a sort of a, it is a telenovela, but it's not like it's got Spanish people in it, but it's for American audiences. It's very, very melodramatic, but there was there's this great sort of dynamic in the household where Jane's mom is talking to her grandma, who's very strict Catholic, and she finds out, spoilers for those of you who haven't watched Jane the Virgin, I know this is a weird thing for me to be talking about, but her mom kind of basically, she finds out that her mom had sex before marriage, something that she was very adamantly against. And the Jane's mom was more, let's call her willing to explore her sexuality. And the grandma says to the mom, "Hey, you were basically kind of a slut." And she screams, she's back at her, like, "No, I'm a woman who likes sex. There's nothing wrong with that." And I felt like that in like 2 minutes made a lot more powerful and interesting presentation of, women should take charge of their sexuality than Wetlands did for me. Yeah. Now, it wasn't as in your face. It wasn't as like, you're going to, I'm talking over you, but it does, like, I'm not going to tweet about that as much as I'm going to tweet about like, man, look how gross this movie is. But that was way more clear just to say it out loud. Like, no, stop slut shaming me. Sex is fun. If that's your message, then there are easier ways to get to that.
Yeah, and there were only a few parts where they were kind of doing the sex positive thing. Like, she's in bed and she's talking to the male nurse and she's basically saying or he's saying, "I wish women would take a little bit more charge," that like she's an exhibitionist and all this. And like all of that stuff seemed a lot more healthy than the weird hygiene stuff that she was playing at, because like the hygiene and the sexuality are linked, but it's still not linked in a way that they're like that it's overtly talking about it being a bad sexual thing. It's kind of weird with that.
And she goes over to that guy's house to get her downtown region shaved by him, and then he even says, like, after he does it and after she's like all getting into it, he's like, "Yeah, you're way too young for me." I don't.
That's a hard border that he's not willing to cross, which is a little bit weird.
This movie also has a little bit of, speaking of that, there's a little bit of an issue in the fact that it's not super clear how old she is.
She's like, it seemed like she was about 16 from what they were kind of insinuating.
She does not look 16.
Yeah.
Which is, maybe she is, but she looks older, and that kind of takes if she's actually supposed to be a 16-year-old girl who's also doing all this stuff, I think there's more of an edge if you cast somebody who looks that young or like make them look that young compared to her who looks like she could be 20.
Yeah, she's probably 20 at the time of casting for this. That scene was actually like an oddly intimate thing where she goes and like the guy basically just shaves her legs and shaves everywhere. Like, it's one of those where it's once again kind of a sex positive scene. It's a very intimate moment, even if it doesn't get to the sex.
But then you have the cut to, well, no, but I'm not, like, there's still something wrong with this. Yeah. There's something wrong with you for coming over. I didn't read it as sex positive. I read it as like, they're like, look at how creepy this is. This older guy. It's totally like, even he knows not to go as far as he wants to go.
Yeah. So it's also an odd way, because he's just like, "Are you shaved?" That's the question he asks her, like, as they're working, Which I'm not sure what kind of place she was working at. That was an odd looking place. Was it like cheese factory or something?
I thought like a meat packing plant, but maybe, yeah.
It would, like, she is the last person you want around bacterial cultures like yogurt and cheese and everything else.
That's messed up. But also, I like the image of what they're doing there in the factory. They're carrying around what essentially look like giant eggs.
Yeah.
Which, if we're going to make an argument that this is sort of about female sexuality, which it's hard to get away from the idea that it isn't. It feels like it's at least trying to be about that. That's a great sort of addition to that theme.
Yeah, and even, like, there's a lot of little subtle things that are on there, like her obsession with avocados is an odd thing because avocado literally means testicle. Like
I'd forgotten about. We've talked about that on the podcast, Tony, and I'd slipped my mind completely as I was watching the movie.
Yeah, and like there's a weird, like, she's a little bit of an unreliable narrator in some things. Like sometimes it's hard to differentiate between what's actually happening and what isn't. And one of the things where it goes fully off the rails and she's kind of hallucinating, she's imagining putting an avocado seed inside of her to turning into like basically the beginnings of a sapling.
As after it comes out the other end.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, as far as a movie that has deeper meaning, I'm sure there's a lot there, especially when you're talking about fertility and the fact that she has made herself unable to have children, or she says she does. I don't know if that's actually true or not, because she says that all the women in her family have one neurotic, crazy daughter that just ends up hating themselves and is never happy. So she's ending that line.
Yeah, and you have, I guess that was maybe thematically shown in the scene where she kind of like she doesn't literally commit suicide, but in one of her sort of flashover imaginary things, she jumps into the pool. And then it makes you wonder, like, well, was anything in that scene real? They do a lot of that too, which is okay. I don't necessarily have a problem with there being a dreamlike quality to a film where you're not 100% sure what's real and what's inside the head. However, it kind of exacerbates the problem I'm already having in that I was already confused by what the film was saying, and now to be confused on top of that of what's actually going on is a little bit of not a deal breaker, probably isn't the right word, but I would prefer it not be that way.
Yeah, it's just a little bit ambiguous, and I was trying to figure out if we were missing anything based on like culture. German culture is definitely different from ours, but it's not so far removed that we're missing out on a ton of thematic elements. Like, say, if we're watching a Japanese movie or something like that, where there's a lot of motifs and things that we just don't know about. And I kept looking for it, and I just couldn't find it.
The other question that Lindsay asked, by the way, I have it open here if you don't mind if I read it. She said, if the main character was a male, would this movie be as gross?
For me, it would be grosser, because she's still an attractive woman, even if she's disgusting in a lot of ways. Like, I'd much rather see her doing some of these things than some random dude. But that's because I'm sort of a pig, so, yeah.
I guess for me, it's because of the implication of childbearing, I think that there is a level of grossness that the female genitalia can achieve that guys can't.
Especially in that turducken moment.
Yes. And they're pushing that. That's not, again, with what is this movie saying? I mean, is the dad is clearly shaming the mom, there. He's describing, like, he's using the turducken. You see, like, the way the opening of the turducken is, and he says, this is what my wife's vagina looked like after having a baby or whatever. And
this is the exact sound when they did the surgery, because, like, things go wrong sometimes.
Right. And that was a dick move for him. But if the movie's saying, oh, don't be a dick and say mean things about women's genitalia, then don't, like, focus on the turducken and, like, make it look gross. And very clearly draw that parallel for the audience to make. That just, again, if we're gonna sort of look down on the dad for his attitude, we should probably look down on the movie for the way it portrayed that stuff.
Yeah, we had an extra 10 minutes out of that. We were almost ready to call it after 9 minutes.
Well, you gotta. I wasn't ready to call it. We just kind of started to stray towards Wetland, towards the debate, and I wanted to make sure we gave this movie its due diligence, which I think we have. I will say, Lindsay, this is a better movie than the last movie. I like this better than the Perfect Host as far as it felt, even though it felt a little confused, it felt like it was trying to go for something. It felt really at least brave and kind of ballsy. I guess that maybe not to be the right word, especially in this particular context. But it definitely felt like it wasn't afraid to really get in your face and try to say something. And I respect that, even if I didn't completely get it. So
yeah, and it's not a movie that I'm going to be recommending to a lot of people. Maybe if I know somebody's a film nerd or something and they could handle this, I might recommend it, just as like a weird foreign film that they might get down on. But it's not one I really want to revisit again anytime soon.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for our movies for Viewers Choice Month. Obviously there's more to the podcast coming after this, but it was a fun month, I think. It took us on kind of an interesting roller coaster ride of bad and unusual and things that we had to think about in a little bit different way. So I like that. I like Viewers Choice Month for that it's not always the worst movies. Sometimes when we're going into this, I think, oh man, this is going to be not like everybody's going to nominate Troll 2. Although even Troll 2, I think could probably
Troll 2 would make for an interesting podcast, if nothing else. And it almost got up there.
Yep. Very close. But it didn't quite go there. And so it wasn't a torture fest. Despite the fact that I had some problems with this last movie, I definitely don't feel like anybody was, well, I guess Lindsay, a little bit of a troll on the, some of the disgusting stuff, but I felt like that there was some merit here to dig into. And so I'm happy that you guys nominated such a fun and diverse run of stuff.
That's
Looking
definitely
forward
the word
next
for it. Diverse. It was all over the place this time. Whereas we've seen the drag ticket, we've seen different things happen where we end up watching a lot of kind of uncomfortable for us movies. And I was tortured with Pitch Perfect, but this month was a little bit easier than last Viewer's Choice Month for me.
Maybe you're desensitizing to it a little bit.
It's kind of like all the shark movies and stuff that I watch. I can start finding some of the enjoyable parts of Asylum movies just because I've seen so many now.
I definitely did not have as hard a time. Lindsay said she was hoping that I would have as hard a time with Wetlands as you did with Pitch Perfect. I was not getting up and pacing around the room. I did pause it in the middle to just because I've been sitting all day and I needed to get up and do some other stuff to sort of break the monotony, because sometimes my brain starts to just be like, we are a bowl of Jell-O. We are just sitting here all day.
I actually have that a lot. I try to give as much attention to the movies as possible whenever we're watching them for the podcast. I try to silence my phone, and whenever I start feeling the pull of everything else, I'll usually take a step back from the movie for a few minutes, just because it's not fair to be reviewing movies that I'm only paying half attention to.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing for real when it's a foreign film. So anyway, I got up and did some other work, and man, a run will really help with that too. Yeah. Yesterday I had one of the better, it wasn't a great run in and of itself. I had to walk for a little bit and, that's all whatever, but actually getting out and doing the run and finally taking a shower, I felt like I've got a whole nother day's worth of energy now because I haven't been sitting still.
Yeah, I love that rush whenever you get done with that. The times that I've actually gotten up at 6:30 in the morning to go and do the elliptical training, it's just wow, my day is feeling good.
Yeah. I've been looking into a standing desk too, but they're expensive.
Yeah, it's almost easier, especially if you've got your laptop to work off of a little bit, to just get a tall platform to work off of and do it that way.
I've looked into that, but even that is hard to find. What? I can't.
What I'm talking about is just straight up go to Home Depot, get a piece of countertop and mount it on the wall.
That's not a bad idea.
That would take.
I could just build a standing desk if I had a piece of countertop, and I think I have some plywood out in the shed. Anyway, this is not the here on Carpentry Talk. We tell you how to build your own standing desk out of pieces you have laying around the house.
The best way to do a standing desk, and this is the last thing I'll say on it, is if you can mount a monitor at the wall at eye level, and bring your laptop or anything like that over, it ends up being pretty awesome, especially if you can get the keyboard at just the right height It's kind of like entirely workflow changing whenever you can do a standing desk correctly.
The keyboard at the right height is what I'm really worried about, because a lot of the ones that I've seen, especially the cheaper ones, they have like the keyboard down by your waist as you're standing up.
Yeah.
And that's a non-starter for me.
And like, it's also like, if it's other people's waist, you're about 6 inches taller than the average person.
Yeah. So I need it to be ergonomic for me.
Yeah. So building your own is probably the best option without spending $800 on a standing desk.
Speaking of standing behind a podium, let's get into the debate, Tony. I don't. I can't. First of all, can we just be amazed a little bit that Donald Trump is the Republican nominee somehow?
I mean, I've been amazed for a while. Like, people can go back and hear my thoughts on that back in the early dirt blocks.
It's simultaneously like hilarious and a little bit horrifying.
Yeah, especially after watching Look Who's Back. And the thing is, like, you could tell that, like, he started out and he was following his coach's advice. He was being the boring Donald Trump that isn't going to create a bunch of sound bites, but at least he's, like, not entirely rambling. Like, he started out and actually kept a coherency for, like, 28 seconds before he lost it. And I think that might be a record for him. But it just, like, by about the third question, like, it was supposed to be over in a 15-minute segment, and it was like 26 minutes in because they just kept being like, no, Lester, I need to finish.
And there's no, like, people kept asking, like, where's the moderator? And I guess he could have been a little bit more forceful, but if the guy just keeps talking, what are you going to do?
They should allow him.
You're not going to get up there and hit him with a baseball bat.
I wanted to see them cut the mic off and have him, like, run over to Hillary's and just start yelling into that. I wanted to see that moment.
It's just like, for every second you go over, you get shocked in the pants. So there were a lot of interruptions. Somebody posted a graph of, you know, times that people got interrupted, and Hillary got interrupted more times.
Yeah, it was 28 times that she got interrupted.
It's either sexism or the fact that Donald Trump just really thinks a lot of what he's saying.
I think it's more what Donald Trump thinks. Like, I'm not going to defend him and say he's not a sexist because he said some very sexist things, but I think it's a little bit more of him hearing his own voice.
Yeah, I really think if, like, Marco Rubio or something up there, I believe Donald Trump would have interrupted him about as many times.
Yeah. He's equal opportunity as far as that offense goes.
There are so many great quotes. I mean, like, Twitter was great to follow. Like, him talking about how nobody would call Sean Hannity. Like, he just kept saying that. Nobody will call Sean Hannity. Why would anybody call Sean Hannity, guys? Just, like, stop. What are you... The best thing that I saw about that, by the way, was something I retweeted. Sarah McLaughlin, I don't know if anybody knows who that is. I don't know who it is, but she said, hey, I'm debating, and this is crazy. Here's Hannity's number, so call him maybe.
Sean Hannity's like a staunch anti-Trump guy, isn't he?
Is he?
Like, my dad was pissed at him because he's like, I
haven't listened to Hannity in many moons.
Well, like, he's part of the Never Trump crowd, according to my dad, who listens to a lot of AM radio still. And he was saying that he's just like he's so against Clinton because of the Supreme Court nominations, and that's like his main shtick on why I need to vote for Trump. I'm not. I'm voting for Gary Johnson. But yeah,
I'm not even sure he's the right choice.
I'm pretty sure that Gary Johnson's the right choice. If you like, I listened to a 3-hour interview on Rogan's podcast the other day with him, and like it lines up mostly with what I say because he's not the hardcore libertarian, let's shut down schools type. Like, okay. He's a lot more measured. He was a Republican governor in New Mexico, which is one of the more left-leaning states. And even, like, he found ways to cut costs by giving people insurance. Like, the same level of insurance that he was getting. It was cheaper to do that than to let people's medical bills stack up and have the state pay it off. Like, there was a lot of interesting things that happened with Gary Johnson. Look it up. I don't want to sound like a pundit for him. Like, this might be my platform. Part of the
podcast brought to you by Gary Johnson.
But I'm Gary Johnson, and I
approve this message.
Like, he's my candidate, and I understand if people don't want to vote for him because it's like he's not going to win. He might actually win a state this time. He's winning in Colorado amongst people under 40. He might win Utah. Like, it's literally like 26, 27, and like 30% in Utah. He might actually win there. But otherwise, he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. So I understand when people say they're not going to vote for him. I wish they would, but that's just the way it goes.
This is one of those like, I think the problem is that your third party candidates aren't interesting enough. You need like a Ron Paul in this election. I think a third party Ron Paul could do real well this election.
Yeah,
but he's
because
not
Gary
out
Johnson is like interesting, but he's not super, super interesting to listen to. I mean,
Right.
he's a man who's climbed Everest and still doesn't have like the charisma to fully take on an election cycle like this. But he's not bad. He's just not as big.
I mean, from the other side, also, and this is not going to happen clearly, but if Bernie Sanders went third party, like that would be a knockdown drag out as well. I think he could bring in some people, but
it would be a lot more fun to watch this election cycle.
It's really a bummer because honestly, this is the election where I think everybody's thinking, do I have to vote for one of these two? Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are like, I would take a third option. That's what I'm thinking. And I don't see any third option that's doing anything exciting.
Yeah.
Gary Johnson's rattling the chains a little bit, but
this is the time to take chances as a third party candidate and put yourself out there. Like, this is the election that could make it. And the thing that freaks me out about this is I feel like it's kind of like the first time that George H.W. Bush got elected, and it was like the lowest voter turnout in like 100 years or something per capita. And I feel like the apathy that's around this one is how Donald Trump is going to get elected.
It really makes me think of Look Who's Back. Because I think he's entertaining, and I think that there are a lot of people. There are so many people who hate Donald Trump who are tweeting jokes about him. And I'm one of them. All right, I don't necessarily hate him, but there are people who hate him.
Airtime. It's why he doesn't need as much funding.
Right. And people like to laugh. I know that's like a weird primal, and I'm sure that many people think more about it than others. But people like to laugh, and Donald Trump makes people laugh because of his ridiculousness. And what does Hillary do? She says good facts and has good ideas, and maybe, arguably. I'm saying like she has all her ducks in a row, but I can tell you very little about the details of what happened in the debate last night. I can tell you that Donald Trump said the cyber and the nuclear way too many times.
And also, if you're talking about like cyber warfare, how do you not bring up the emails there? Like, that was like the biggest missed opportunity the entire night whenever they're talking about state-sponsored cybersecurity.
He did bring up her emails in like a completely
But that was
weird...
a different time. Like, if
he was like talking about racism, and he's like, by the way, I love black people, but Hillary, what are you doing with your email servers, lady? Okay. I don't know what that has. It wasn't like that, but it felt like he just needed to get to the email thing. So he jumped right in there.
Yeah. I watched Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, one of my favorite shows recently. And he was talking about how Hillary is basically like an oatmeal raisin cookie that's mostly raisin, and how that's just pretty terrible. And that Donald Trump is basically like having a dump truck dump raisins on you. Like, it was a pretty interesting segment. He went into both the corruption on both sides of that, bunch of weird deals that they did. How like the Trump Foundation will pay like $12,000 so he can buy his own portrait to hang in his own bar, and like buy a Tim Tebow helmet and all this other stuff. It was an interesting segment. It's comical. It's Idiocracy and Look Who's Back combined.
I did like how both of the weirdest thing on Hillary's side to me in the debate was when she told people to go to her website to watch the live fact checking. I kind of get why she did that, but the way she brought it up and the reality of the idea that I didn't see anybody tweet like, oh man, you're right, I'm on Hillary's website. There's so many facts here. Like that nobody like here's a website on TV and decides I'm going to go and check out Hillary's website, HillaryClinton.com. And Donald Trump's like, oh, by the way, check out my website too. It's pretty great.
Buy my book,
Well, that was the other thing. So
check out my hotel.
Hillary plugged her book. Here's my plan. Go buy it in bookstores. And then Donald Trump was like, I've got a hotel in this neighborhood, and believe you me, it's a hotel. It's a pretty great hotel.
I'll be getting to Pennsylvania Avenue one way or another.
My 10-year-old is great with computers.
The thing is, like, so much of it was word salad that a lot of it couldn't be considered like entirely gaffes because it was just too long and spread out to make sense.
Well, he did just completely deny stuff that people have on record of him saying.
Yeah, like him saying that global warming is a hoax, and then he denied that, and people pulled up 45 tweets where he said directly that it was a hoax.
My favorite, though, I don't know why, this just blew my mind in a And maybe like there's more factual stuff to it than I know, but they asked him about the birther thing, and he was like, "Well, I believed in that, but then I went and got that birth certificate. I was the only one. I was able to get that birth certificate. You guys, I have it." And like turned it into like, I haven't actually looked into that story. Maybe it's 100% true the way he told it, but I feel like that's not the case. I mean, they did release a birth certificate.
I remember the news reports saying that he was one of the ones that was always pressuring and always pushing and trying to get that moving. So I think he can claim a little bit of credit for that, but it's not like he was the only one pressing.
Well, they released it like a long time ago, though. The way he made it sound, it was like I was in the campaign and I talked about it, and then, maybe I'm just misremembering it, but it just felt like a bizarre thing for him to say and be like, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that I got the birth certificate. Like, you're very proud that you badgered this guy into proving that he was an American citizen and then, like, didn't apologize for saying that he wasn't an American citizen?
I mean, how often has he actually apologized?
Donald Trump is very proud of himself.
Yes.
That's what I got. Like, he said, I'm proud of that, like, thing that I did so often in this. Which is, to a certain extent, I find that people be proud of their accomplishments, but he's really proud of a lot of stuff.
I also felt like there were some missed opportunities from Clinton to like bring up Trump University and some of these other things. If you're going to bring up his business, like he's had 6 bankruptcies for 141 businesses that he's started. Like you can give some crap about that, but Trump could have responded better. But bring up Trump University. That thing was entirely a farce.
Yeah. And my favorite part, I think, of the whole shebang was the PolitiFact Twitter feed, because I did go there and occasionally look and see what they were saying about the debate, and that was good stuff. So
yeah, the thing is, Trump is appealing straight up to like emotional things. So people that are supporting Trump do not care about what like the facts and the way that like Clinton was laying things out. They're straight up going off of what he represents emotionally. And I think that that's going to affect more the electorate than people think. Like, whenever you read Reddit threads, you'd think that it was like 75% and he only had 20% of the voters and everything. It's like, he's deadlocked right now. Like, he's within a couple points. He's within the margin of error in almost every poll.
And the other thing, too, is him saying, I didn't say that. 90% of the people who watched the debate, I think, probably didn't fact check him. Like, he can even if they do, like, it's already been said that he said that, so the people who believe that he said that probably weren't in favor of him to begin with. For him to just stand, like, what does he have to lose to stand up there and just lie?
He really doesn't have anything to lose. He
doesn't have anything. Yes, I know. He might as well say, no, I definitely didn't say China was, responsible for the for global warming. It's a plot from them. If people are already kind of on his side to begin with, then what are they going to do? It was, man, we talked for a while about this debate thing.
We might want to put that subject to bed.
It was a lot of fun though, and that's what terrifies me, because politics, like, it is a circus, and I'm like, from a person who enjoys circuses, that's great. I don't want to go to the circus to have my country run.
Yeah. That's the only positive thing I see about Trump, is it's exposing how bad like some of this stuff is, but it's also just scary. So it's a crazy thing. And right now the number one trending thing, according to my thing, is hashtag Trump won.
I don't know that he didn't. That's the thing.
That's the scariest part, is that
I'm not sure he didn't win. Like, I think Hillary was, we said we were going to get off of it. I don't think he made better points. I don't think that he was, I don't know. Like, I think I remember the stuff that he said. It was ridiculous stuff. But again, he's the person who stuck in my head in that debate.
Yeah, I could barely quote anything that Hillary said last night other than when she was like, woo!
Yeah. Which, man, that was like when he said there's a couple of words that Hillary Clinton doesn't want to say in regards to racism, I was like, woo, here we go. Is this going to go? No. Okay, never mind. He just said law and order. Okay.
Yeah, there were a few that were really set up to screw him, and he skirted them about as well as a guy like Trump could.
Oh, so good. Ah, moving on to other things. We did have a couple of cool trailers drop this week. Me and you watched Passengers, to kind of kick things off,
It
which
looked so pretty.
it looks too pretty to me.
Yeah.
Is that a weird thing to say? It doesn't. It looks like it's over designed. Like everything has a shine. Like it's the iPad of ships. I mean, I don't need it to be the ship from Alien, right? Like, they don't need to be like hydraulic fluid dripping everywhere. But the ship in that movie is super shiny.
Yeah, it's
everywhere.
It's not like Pandorum or something like that.
It doesn't feel. Well, I guess it wouldn't feel lived in. It's a very odd. Maybe it'll eventually get ugly. I would like to see that dynamic change, as you know, it seems like a good thing and everybody's happy, and like as things progress in the relationship, even talking about Too Pretty, like even Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence feel like here are the two most attractive, most popular people in the world right now. We put them in a movie together. Come see it.
Like, if they're the only ones on the ship, how did she get such a good hairstylist?
Well, there's robots.
Yeah, that's true. There might be something with
There's
that.
probably just like a thing that you put down over your hair and like select from a touchscreen. What hair? And like 5 seconds later, whoop, it comes up.
Let's
Probably
give a
isn't
quick
even real
summary
hair.
of the movie, like just in case people haven't seen the trailer.
Well, so it's about a generation, not a generation ship, because that's where people live. A hibernation colonization ship where people are put in sleep pods for many, many hundreds of years and sent out to colonize a planet really far away. Because, in sort of real life, of course, in real life, you can't put people to sleep for 500 years, but
Yeah.
you also can't travel, super fast like you can in Star Trek. So if you want to go out to another alien world and have people still alive, you
Yeah, it's
either
more
have
than
to,
100-year trip for them.
right. You either have to do a generation ship, which is the thing I said at the beginning, and I was wrong, where you just have people like that. The ship is their whole world, and they have sex and have babies, and eventually the babies get to the star, or you put everybody to sleep through some kind of sci-fi hand waving and let them sleep until they get to the place. Seems like the more palatable idea, really.
Yeah.
Do that.
I mean, it'd have to be a pretty fun generation ship. Like in sci-fi, you always see like religious colonists taking like a generation ship to another planet. That seems to be like one of the bigger themes. Like you'll hear about the Mormons getting this giant ship, and they're like, "All right, so 5 generations down the line, these people will settle a planet for us."
Which seems weird for the Mormons, because aren't they supposed to inherit the earth?
Something like that.
Like they're not going. Most of them aren't going to heaven because the 144,000 thing is pretty much full up at this point. So I'm not trying to be controversial here, but what's up with that Expanse? How did those Mormons think? Maybe I should read the book. I haven't. Read
I enjoyed the book.
Yeah, do they talk about it more about the Mormon theology and how it deals with space
I
travel?
don't think they talk about the theology, but they definitely talk about the colony ships a lot.
Yeah, that's in the show as well. So we were in the middle of summarizing Passengers. So what happens in this ship where everybody's asleep is one dude wakes up, and then through some other process of elimination, a woman wakes up, and they're still 100 years out from their destination. So the only people awake on this ship, the only, possible, like they have to live out the rest of their lives. They can't go back to sleep for whatever hand wavy reason. And so it's about kind of the romance and the dynamic between them. Apparently there's some stuff in the script that the trailer hasn't revealed yet. I've read some things about it. I don't want to spoil
The trailer
it.
felt really spoilery to me. So like if you like the first 30 seconds of the trailer, just turn it off, because I'm already sold on the movie, and I was like, this showed me way, way, way too much.
I think here's the deal. I think the trailer showed things that happen at the end of the movie, but it didn't talk about why those things were happening.
Yeah, but it gave a few lines that like hint at exactly why like she woke up and all this other stuff, and that's even a spoiler right there.
Yes, I think why she woke up is and I've read descriptions of the movie that just sort of say like, here it is. This is what this movie's about. Like it's kind of like in the explanation for what the movie is, and then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, we're gonna not tell people about that anymore. So I know, like I didn't even know that was a spoiler until people started talking about. That's a big spoiler. I'm glad they didn't put that in the trailer. So I'm trying to talk around it here, even though to me it just sort of became germane knowledge about the movie way before I had even seen the trailer. But it does. It feels like there could be more darkness in this movie than we get sort of in the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to see how that is. The other big space movie I read a glowing, like ecstatic review, which we talked about last week was, or a couple weeks ago, Arrival. Apparently that movie is going to be
That's coming out pretty quick, isn't it?
It's in November. Yeah.
I think we might need to do a bonus one on that just because that trailer was pretty much perfect. I really want to see that one.
That's another one where there's some stuff that happens that I think they're keeping quiet in the trailers that I'm really looking forward to.
Watch the teaser one if you don't want to know what the alien things look like until like the reveal happens completely. In the movie. In the second trailer, they show them bigger or a little bit more though. So okay. I don't like whenever that's revealed to me. It's like seeing Godzilla beforehand and everything. It's like I know he's there. I just want that reveal moment and everything. But it's like it still looks like it's going to be an excellent movie, even if I've seen a little bit more than I should have. Yeah. Next movie we looked at was Bye Bye, or what was it called? Mr. Bye Bye?
Oh, the Bye Bye Man.
Yeah, Bye Bye Man. That movie is like Candyman and all those other like Bloody Mary type things with just a whole lot of caffeine added to it. It looks really weird. It looks kind of fun, but that movie looks ridiculous.
This movie could be good, Tony, but I'm looking at it and I'm not seeing anything good about this movie.
Oh, I didn't say it was going to be good. I said it might be fun.
The idea of that you can't think about this thing, right? Like this entity or whatever, like when you think about it, that calls it. That's neat, but I don't know how you put it in a movie. Like, how do you show somebody thinking about the Bye Bye Man? How do you do that?
I think he just shows up while they're trying not to think about it. You show a guy in like Zen meditation, and then somebody says bye next door, and then all of a sudden he's there.
It's like, oh, I know what it is now. I just realized what this movie is. It's The Game.
We all just lost the game.
We did, and this is like the horror movie of The Game. That's why this movie.
When you lose the game, you lose your life.
When you lose the game, when you die in the game, you die in real life. And I'm talking about The Game. You know, the game. Where you're playing the game right now.
I mean, that's probably like the episode title or something like that. The Game. You just
lost the game.
Yeah.
And the Bye Bye Man ate you. Yep. Because that's my problem here. Like, it's something that we've had since we were in high school and kind of gotten over. I have gotten over it anyway. Like, doesn't bother me anymore. But it feels like kind of just, it's a cool sort of thing, but I don't know how you make it into a movie.
And it doesn't look like this movie handles it properly, but we'll see. Maybe. We might see it.
The third trailer that, I mean, and possibly the best, definitely, you know what? Forget the possibly. Definitely the best of the bunch. If you have not seen this trailer, I tweeted it right before recording this. If you have not seen it, it'll be in the show notes. Go find it immediately and watch it because it's amazing. Denzel Washington in a movie called Fences.
Yeah, he and Viola Davis, and it just looks like it's going to be intense.
It's just this whole, like, 90% of the trailer is just this one conversation he's having with his son, where his son comes up to him. It looks like it takes place in about the 50s. And there's sort of a lower class black family, and the son asks his dad, played by Denzel, why don't you like me? And Denzel goes through this whole thing about like you. I provide for you. I go to work every day and put food on your table. Like, you sleep in the bed that I give you. You sleep under my roof. And like the way he delivers the line and the way the trailers cut together and you like see what his life is like. Oh, so
Denzel
intense.
Washington's pretty much the best.
It is. And I just saw him in Magnificent Seven and he was good in that. He was not this in Magnificent Seven. Did you get to see Magnificent Seven yet, Tony?
I have not. I'm probably going tonight because of the whole Stimulus Tuesday thing that my theater does. $5 for a movie ticket, $1 for sodas.
I talked about it in the rundown a little bit, but like that is a movie where you kind of feel like it's not really a compliment when you talk about a movie's action over sort of the other elements, but the action in Magnificent Seven is incredible. And I don't like. I felt like this was about on par for me with the original. Like, there's a lot of stuff I like in the original, but there's also some stuff that I just kind of find like I don't really want to sit through this to get through all the stuff.
Did you spot our friend Mortem Post in it?
No, I didn't.
I believe she was an extra in that. I'm going to be looking for her.
She probably got blew up. There's a lot of people getting blown up and shot in this. A lot of people getting blown up and shot. The battle scene. There's two main like shootout set pieces, right? You have when they first get into town, there's, the seven facing off against the guys who are there to sort of look after things. And that's one of those like slow, tense, like everybody knows that there's going to be shooting, but nobody is quite ready to take it. They're sort of all getting the measure of each other, and then, it kicks off and stuff happens. And that is incredible. And then the final battle scene where the bad guy comes with all of his guys to take back the town is just amazing. Just really well shot. If you like any of that type of stuff, go see it. If you're looking for like real deep character stuff, not so much.
I almost asked you if the action scenes were as good as The Revenant, and then I remembered.
I haven't seen The Revenant. Based on the trailers, I would say they're better from what I've seen with The Revenant, but
I don't know. Like that's pretty hard to do. Like considering how good some of the ones in The Revenant were. Like I know you hate cinema sins, but they removed 15 sins because of how good the action scenes were.
I don't even want to think about cinema sins. But why'd you have to bring that up? That just bums me out.
I still don't know what you hate about
zone.
That.
My whole zone is bummed now because you talked about cinema sins. Why?
I find them occasionally entertaining. I find them very, very picky, and they're giving sins for things that don't matter. But occasionally they drop some pretty funny lines.
Well, just drop the funny lines then and stop nitpicking movies like about stuff that doesn't matter.
Says one of the most nitpicky guys about movies I've ever known.
I'm picky. I'm not nitpicky, okay?
I think you pick some nits occasionally.
Speaking of cinema sins, you know what cinema commits a sin? We'll round out with this. I don't even know if you've heard of this because I didn't actually tweet you about this, but I did want to talk about it because it's one of the most amazingly bad things that I can imagine. It's this movie called Max Steel.
Max Steel.
Have you seen anything about Max Steel?
I think I saw you mention it in a tweet. I'm looking up the...
It's based on a toy line that's no longer extant, right? So like imagine
I saw a trailer for this. Yeah.
Yeah. There was an animated series. It ran from 2000 to 2002. And then there were some direct-to-video animated films that were released from 2004 to 2012. And they had a toy line in 2013. And now, and by the way, this isn't Beyblades or something that was huge. Well, I'm sure it was popular with somebody, but we're not talking about like a giant toy phenomenon. We're talking about something they were trying to get going and clearly didn't work out. But somehow they made like a feature-length motion picture live action thing of Max Steel. And it looks like kind of the most generic thing you can possibly imagine.
Pretty much. People are saying it's basically a cheap Guyver ripoff.
Maybe. I mean, the guy has a suit. And that's cool. Like, honestly, I think the suit looks cool. And the robot, there's an alien robot that comes and tells him, like, your father left this suit for you in your blood or something. I don't know. You're the chosen one. Right.
Yeah, it does not look good.
It looks... Yeah, it doesn't look as good as Monster Trucks. Only because Monster Trucks is cooler. Dissing Monster Trucks. Mad about that. Don't like that idea.
When is Monster Trucks coming out anyway?
January of 2017. That's the only reason excited about getting older is because we're getting closer to Monster Trucks.
We have one last question. This is from our friend Kevin Veldman at the Comic Noobs. He asks us... Whoa, my screen moved. If you could choose just one, which movie president would you vote for this November? And I think the obvious answer is always going to be Bill Pullman from Independence Day.
Well, if that's the obvious answer, let's take that off the table then.
Who would you pick?
Stacker Pentecost wasn't the president, was he?
I don't know.
He was just the head
Pentecost was.
The Jaeger, what's his face from the Jaeger program?
Oh, from Pacific Rim. No, he is definitely not the president.
No, not with a name like Stacker Pentecost. What is that name? Moving, not for real though.
I mean, I'd vote for Idris Elba over what we have right now.
Has he not played the president in anything?
I would be surprised if he hasn't at least done it once, considering the variety of roles he's done. I mean, we could vote for like Morgan Freeman from like Deep Impact or something.
Oh, I know who. I can't believe I didn't think about this already. What's his face from Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen?
Who played the president in that? I only know that Gerard Butler's in those. I never watched him.
I can see his name. It's the guy who was Two-Face in the Batman movies.
Oh, it's Tommy Lee Jones.
No.
You're thinking of Aaron Eckhart.
Yes,
I was thinking
him.
Of the old one.
Yeah, you're going back a little further than me. Aaron Eckhart is the president in that, and like everywhere he goes, stuff blows up.
So it's just like a constant blow up fest around him. Like that's what you want for your president.
Yeah, man. So Olympus Has Fallen is on Amazon Prime, I think, or maybe it was on Netflix. I don't know. It was somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and I watched the first, I think 45 minutes to an hour, and I was like, this is good. I'm getting into this. And then I watched, I came back to it, and the last part of it was not nearly as good. Like the part where they're flying in the helicopters and they're shooting the SAMs off of or whatever they are, like the guided rockets off of the roofs at the helicopters, and like they're shooting the chaff out trying to get away from them, and then like they run out of chaff, and the one like Marine 2 sacrifices itself for Marine 1 so the president can get away. Like that was awesome. Then they just sort of like decided, okay, we're gonna go in a house, and then we're gonna be in a street, and we're gonna fight some guys in the street, and it's gonna be dark and you can't see anything. Don't you remember how awesome those helicopters were? I haven't finished it yet because it was so disappointing.
I think if we want to just go with this election and our options, I think I'd rather have President Camacho from Idiocracy, Terry Crews for the win. Could also have Jack Nicholson from Mars Attacks.
I didn't know that there was a president in Mars Attack. I haven't seen that.
You have a poster for Mars Attacks and you haven't seen it, and I think that movie is so you that you would love it so much.
Do you think it's a good Halloween movie? Because we're kind of...
I'd do that for Halloween. I think people would like to have us do Mars Attacks.
There's... Let's see. Harrison Ford is in Air Force One as the president.
Yeah, you don't really see anything about his policies there.
Oh, no. I just figured... I can't believe I forgot. Okay. Wrong answer. Everything before this was the wrong answer. Everything. It's Samuel L. Jackson from Big Game.
I could do that. I could handle that. Big Game, for those that haven't been listening as long, I think we did that one like over a year ago, is from what did they do before? I can't remember the name.
It was the guy who did the Christmas movie Rare Exports. Yeah,
Rare Exports, and it's a Finnish movie, and it has this one is basically a spiritual sequel to that, where Samuel L. Jackson ejects out of his pod on Air Force One and is saved by like a 12-year-old boy. So it was an awesome movie.
Honorable. You know what another good one is what I'm trying to say. Is Charlie Sheen from Machete Kills.
That was pretty good too. Before we wrap this question up, I want to just give one more shout out to the Comic Noob Show. Their most recent episode has one of the writers for Black Panther. I'm trying to pronounce the name right. It's Ta-Nehisi Coates. So if you dig the Black Panther, you definitely need to check out that info or that interview. And if you don't know much about Black Panther, check it out anyway, because it's a really good episode.
And that'll do it for this episode, Tony. Next week we're gonna have hopefully.
Do we have all the scheduling?
What?
I'll have to bring that stuff up next week. I went on a vacation, some weird stuff happened on trains and things like that. So we'll get that next week.
Okay.
Or on a dirt block. We'll see.
Yeah. But next week we're gonna have have we worked out the scheduling? Can I say who we're gonna have?
I didn't hear back yesterday.
Okay. Well,
It'll
be a surprise.
Let's at least plug her Kickstarter real quick.
No, well, when is it gonna? We'll plug it next week.
Yeah, we'll plug it better next week.
You guys don't know who we're talking about. Shush, you don't know. Don't try to go on our Twitters and figure it out who we're following who has a Kickstarter right now. We might have a guest, and we might be reviewing a movie. We will be reviewing a movie.
It might be Nightmare Before Christmas, but we'll see.
Probably will be. Because we're kicking off Halloween. We were going to do all Hammer horror movies, but we had, again, a guest situation come up that maybe we wanted to sort of get into their wheelhouse a little bit better. So
they're not a big fan of horror, so we're not going to force them to watch like some pretty hardcore movies. So,
hypothetically, if that works out. So
we're skirting around this a little bit, but we aren't skirting around is how you become a member and support this podcast. If you go to humanechoes.com and click the Become a Member link, there's a bunch more information there on how to get bonus episodes, how to get pins, how to get shirts, all sorts of incredible stuff. If you like this podcast and you want us to keep going, becoming a member is the number one way to support us. The best way other than that is to tell your friends about us so we can get a few more downloads, we can start getting sponsored, we can start doing all that stuff. So sharing is a big thing. The other best way to support us is by clicking on the Amazon link on the right-hand side of the page. If you click that and you buy anything from Amazon, we get a nice little cut of it. There are a lot of you that are doing this now, and it's awesome to see. We're getting like pretty good checks every month from Amazon just from your normal purchases.
Brag about it, Tony.
Hey, I am happy that people are doing this.
I'm very proud that we're getting such big checks from Amazon. We're definitely not paying any federal taxes on it because that's smart.
I mean, I'm conflicted about that statement, but yes.
Come to our hotel that will be opening in Detroit somewhere.
And buy our books. You can actually go directly from the Amazon link to our books. Or to their books. I'm only in some anthologies that are listed right there. But yeah, I hope you guys have an excellent week. We will see you next week, probably with The Nightmare Before Christmas and a special guest.
Bye, guys.
Bye.